Well, good morning everyone, and welcome again. Welcome to one of a series of interviews from the Festival of the Sound in Parry Sound, Ontario, Canada. My name's Keith Horner, and I'm helping celebrate 30 years of fine music making at the Festival of the Sound. Janina Fialkowska is one of Canada's favorite pianists, and in recent times, one of our favorite pianists here at Parry Sound too. Janina was born in Montreal and has an international career for more than 3 decades. Along the way, there's been drama, and there have been hurdles that no pianist should have to confront. But true to the way she plays the music which has brought her fame, Janina has confronted life's challenges with openness, forthrightness, honesty, courage, and a feeling that something remarkable will happen if you only believe. And I think we can all take something from Janina's story, so I'm particularly looking forward to this interview. Welcome to this 30th anniversary series of interviews, Janina.
Thank you, Keith.
Let's start with chapter 1, as it were. And I want to take you back to the beginning in Montreal.
Right.
Fialkowska's...
It's a good Montreal name.
It's a good Montreal name. It's a Polish name.
Yeah, it's a Polish
Is that your
name.
father's side of the family?
It's my father was born in Poland. Actually born in Lwów, which was actually Lemberg, which was actually Austria-Hungary, which was, you know, he was Polish.
Yeah. And your mother?
My mother was Canadian, and true Canadian, because I have Cree blood in me.
Oh.
Yes.
And were they both musicians?
No, not at all. My mother was... came from a rather well-to-do family, and suddenly at age 16 decided she loved music above all things and wanted to be a pianist, and her family sort of did that. But then she went and studied in Paris right before World War II and became quite proficient. But the war stopped everything, so she transferred all her ambition into her daughter.
Ah. And her daughter started playing the piano at 3 months, 4 months?
Just about. Actually, I was 4.
4?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I wanted to. It wasn't that I didn't want to.
Yeah?
Yes.
And it was the piano that you wanted to play and
yes,
not the trumpet?
No, it was the piano. It was definitely the piano, because my older brother played the piano, and I wanted to play it as well.
So after Montreal, then you followed your mother's footsteps, I guess, and went to Paris.
Exactly. In fact, we asked the advice of my mother's old teacher, and she, of course, said, come to Paris and come and study with Yvonne Lefébure, who was a magnificent teacher. I learned so much. Very theatrical, had wonderful hats and with ribbons and silk, and would desperately try and make you cry in classes, and because, you know, she was very temperamental, but I never did cry in front of her. I'm very proud of that. Well, I could tell you one little short story about Madame, just to illustrate the myth around her. She was a wonderful teacher. I have to preface this by saying I owe her a lot. But she was giving a summer course of master classes, and my mother, I was only 15 then, so my parents had come along, and my mother was sitting reading in one of the breaks, and she had previously asked if she could take Madame's photograph, and Madame had said, absolutely not! And so, well, my mother said, okay, fine. And anyway, the next day she was reading in the garden, and one of the pianists, who since has turned out to be a major concert pianist, Imogen Cooper, who was also in the class, came out and just came to my mother and said, Madame is ready. And my mother, yes, Madame is ready to have her picture taken. And she'd taken the trouble that day of putting on her yellow silk dress with the purple polka dots and the huge hat with the ribbon. Anyway, Madame was ready.
That's wonderful. So after the attitude of Paris, you traded that for the attitude of New York, right?
For Mr. Sasha Gorodnitsky, whose probably second sentence to me was, Janina, dear, I'm going to have to rid you of all those terrible French habits.
Well, he must have done a good job because you were his teaching assistant, right?
I was his teaching assistant for 5 years. Yes, I was. Yes. No, we developed a very, very fond relationship, and he was a marvelous teacher. Very much in the Russian school. His teachers had been Joseph Levine, and his mentor had been Rachmaninoff. And not that I've ever gone that much into the Russian school, preferring more Chopin, Mozart, and people like that. But I learned a great deal from Sasha with the beautiful Russian sound. That's what I learned, really. Right. And a certain amount of real hard work ethic and discipline.
And were you training with him when you went in for the Rubinstein, the first master piano competition?
Yes, I was.
In Israel?
Yes, I was.
Did you have a strategy going into that competition? And of course, Janina won that competition, right?
Well, well, there's a story to that. There's a story to everything. Actually, that competition had been scheduled for 1973, but then one of the very unfortunate Middle East wars occurred at that time, and so it was put off. And I, at that time, was 22 years old and had never played a professional concert. I think I'd played one professional concert for $400, and I just didn't see where my career was going. And I'd actually entered law school and was due to start in September 1974 at the Université de Montréal, when they put the Rubinstein competition back on for September 1974. So Mr. Goronitsky, my parents said, go, go. And I went because I thought I might actually shake the hand of Arthur Rubinstein. That was enough incentive for me to go. And so I went, and I actually was not going to make the finals. I didn't have the marks to make the finals because in those days, we Canadians weren't very present on juries in international competitions. You know, I was the first, really, who, after Ronald Turini, I was the first to win a major prize and get that far. And so Canadians weren't that well known, and we were the expendable ones, or among the expendable ones. Anyway, I found out later from Rubinstein himself that one of the members of the jury, although you weren't allowed to vote for your students, and he had students in the competition, he would mark down people that he thought might get in the way of a student, and he'd give me a 0. So there was a very big kerfuffle over that, and Rubinstein, this is totally unbeknownst to me at the time, had said, well, I'll remove my name from the competition and leave if she doesn't make the finals. Wow. So then the other members, some members of the jury thought this was equally dishonest, which it was. And so there was a fight, and he then said, I'll stay if she makes the finals, but then I will not vote in the finals. So in the end, I didn't win, but I made the finals and I got a prize.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, but much better, of course, I got the attention of Arthur Rubinstein.
Yeah, and he became your mentor. Yeah. Now, what does that mean, having a mentor?
Well, that means that I played a great deal for him. He was not a teacher per se, but he was someone who would then sit down and play it 5 times better than you played it and inspire you. And in that way, he was extremely inspirational. He, at that time, had just started to become completely blind. I mean, he just had a peripheral, so he had 2 more years of playing left in him. And he knew that this was coming to an end and also wanted to pass on to some lucky person like me, some of his knowledge, and picked me. And the thing is that he then, seeing that I had no career at that time, went on his last tour specifying that every concert he played, I would get the following year. So I went from 0 to 50 concerts, Philadelphia Orchestra, you know, Chicago, London Philharmonic, everything.